A new article says more than 7 out of 10 likely voters among political parties, both parties that is, support school choice. Writing in the Washington Examiner, former Department of Education Press Secretary Angela Morabito writes in part, quote, "The political left, including the teachers union, talk a big game about equality and racial justice. They have it backward. Racial justice in education means letting all families, regardless of zip code, choose where their children will learn." With more in the story, we'll check in with the author of that article, Angela Morabito. Thank you so much for joining us. You're a fellow spokesperson for the Defense of Freedom Institute, and thank you so much for joining us. First off, talk to us a little bit more for those who don't know about school choice and what it involves.
Well, first off, thank you for having me on. And second, school choice is the idea that parents, not the government, should be able to choose where their child goes to school. Assigning school districts based on zip code is an old school idea, and it's one that just isn't serving students well. So the idea of school choice is that there's a certain amount of taxpayer funding set aside for each student, and that student should wear that funding like a backpack, not to necessarily the school down the street unless that's what they want, but to any school that's going to meet their needs the best.
And take us inside the numbers. You say that both Democrats and Republicans support school choice, correct?
That's right. There's an overwhelming majority of people in this country who support school choice, and that's true whether they're Democratic, Republican, or independent. The only people who don't support school choice demographically are white liberals. So support among school choice among Democrats is really high, but that's coming from Black and Hispanic Democrats. It seems like everyone else besides white Democratic voters are in agreement that school choice is a great thing.
And does school choice have any sort of impact on the Catholic or faith-based schools?
It does. So when families can choose where to send their child to school, they don't always choose the one that was assigned by the government. Plenty of families will choose Catholic schools, other religious schools. They may even choose another public school other than the one their child was initially assigned to. So Catholic schools did so well during the pandemic. They were statistically some of the first to reopen, some of the first to welcome kids back and to keep learning going during the pandemic, that we're seeing more and more parents choose that option or try to choose that option, even if they don't have school choice available to them right now. That's what parents are demanding.
And switching gears slightly, there are some new reports that several public school districts are facing a shortage of teachers. With the new school year starting, quickly approaching, can you tell us more about this?
It is so unfortunate that instead of a pandemic and pandemic-related policies keeping kids from learning, it's a totally predictable staffing issue that's going to stop it. School choice benefits teachers too. They deserve to teach students who want to be in that classroom and who are learning well in that classroom. And when teachers are treated like political pawns by the teachers' unions, they see that. They want out. There's also statistically a huge spike in behavioral issues following extended school closures. Being a teacher has never been easy, but it is harder after students have been holed up at home for 2 years and not interacting with their peers, missing out on those 2 and in some cases even more years of social development.
And also a report from CNN says that the White House is set to give up about $10,000 in student loan debts. This was an issue that you dealt with during the Trump administration. Can you give us your take on this report?
Sure. So during President Biden's term thus far, there have been no mandatory federal student loan payments. Secretary DeVos and President Trump put those loans on pause temporarily when the pandemic first hit. This was meant to only last a few months, not a few years. But the left has figured out never let a crisis go to waste. So they have continued to kick the can down the road, pursuing this inflationary policy that is ultimately going to come back to bite us. Because only about 13% of Americans have student loan debt, but 100% of Americans are impacted when we continually just print more money to send to colleges,
Right.
who, by the way, aren't doing, in many cases, such a great job themselves.
Well, we want to thank you so much, Angela Morabito. Thank you so much. Policy Fellow with the Independent Women's Forum and spokesperson for the Defense for Freedom Institute. Thank you so much.
Thank you.